Now, the time has come for all external gambling-related signage to be stripped from venues across the state. This, of course, follows the state government's election commitment. And since the changes were announced in May, Liquor and Gaming New South Wales inspectors have engaged with 530 venues across 20 city and 12 regional local government areas to try and provide education and support to meet these obligations. But will it really make any difference? Will it help reduce gambling harm in the community? And whether it does or not, what is the next step? Carol Bennett is Chief Executive of the Alliance for Gambling Reform and joins us now. Carol, thank you.
Good morning, Bill.
Now, the deadline was September 1, which is yesterday. 215 of those 530-odd venues visited so far were complying with the new requirements. The highest level of compliance is interesting because these are areas that I think have also been identified with problem gambling, and that is places like Canterbury, Bankstown and Fairfield, local government areas. So that's encouraging. How hopeful are you, though, that this might stop people or at least lessen their gambling habits that are excessive?
Yeah, look, Bill, it's an interesting question. We know that in New South Wales we've got the highest number of poker machines, almost half of all of Australia's poker machines. The New South Wales Crime Commission last year found that you have widespread money laundering, criminality, gambling harm in your venues in New South Wales. And of course, they recommended that a cashless pre-commitment card be implemented. But what we have instead here is the Minns government putting in place, or suggesting they're putting in place, a new policy instead of doing what was the number one recommendation of the Crime Commission and putting in place a pre-commitment card. They instead decided that they were going to do a number of different measures, and this was one of them. The irony is, Bill, that this was already enabled for under the legislation, the Gaming Act of 2001. So it's a bit of a nonsense to suggest it's a new measure. Whether it'll make a difference, well, it hasn't so far because people were flouting the rules. It remains to be seen, and I don't think it's going to be a major game shifter when it comes to reducing gambling harm.
Well, we're talking about signs like VIP room. The one I really like is Prosperity Lounge. I mean, that's really subtle. Also, Golden Room, probably even more subtle. And look, it is targeted at certain people, but I just wonder if you're a problem gambler, will that stop you? I find that hard to believe, but then I'm not a problem gambler, so I don't know.
Look, I think signage is an issue for people that have been harmed by gambling. I mean, they tell us that, seeing, different colours and different symbols and spinning coins and that sort of thing is a bit of a trigger for them. So it is an issue. But I guess the issue is, are people going to actually really change that signage? Are these venues going to change the colours? Are they going to change the symbols enough? I mean, they can still comply with the rules and still do all of the things that are still triggers to people who might be enticed to go in and gamble. And we know that, this is all about trying to reduce the level of promotion for people to go in and use poker machines. So it's not supposed to sort of give any indication that there's poker machines available on the site. But, the rules and the Act enables people to do a lot of things that can still give that indication regardless. So, and then I guess the other thing, Bill, is it going to be enforced? I mean, I'm not sure Liquor and Gaming have a great record on this, and are they going to have the resources to do that? And the fines are pretty minimal. They're $11,000 for a breach. I mean, that's the cost of doing business in this industry. It's really minimal.
Yeah, I was going to say they're making a lot more coin than that out of those machines. Right. What about the disclaimers at the end of betting ads that we're seeing more of? And the messages seem to be a lot stronger now as well. How do you feel about those?
Well, look, it's a step in the right direction, as these things are, and I think, look, governments and politicians have had to come to the realisation that Australia is way ahead when it comes to gambling harm in the world. Like, we're 40% ahead of any other country when it comes to losses from poker machines alone. We're way ahead of online gambling. So they're having to do something. I mean, these are steps in the right direction, but really what we need is a proper a proper approach to this issue. And things like cashless cards that are mandatory, that require pre-commitment. People have to set loss limits and they have to stick to them. These are the kinds of measures that every review and inquiry and the Crime Commission in New South Wales have said have to happen if we're going to reduce these significant losses and we're going to see a reduction in crime, money laundering and gambling harm. So we're not biting the bullet, I think, Bill. What we're doing is these little fiddling around the edges type things that don't really make a difference, haven't made a difference to date, but look like governments are doing something, and particularly in New South Wales where they've got a sham trial of a cashless gambling card. We don't need a trial. We actually need it to come into place.
Carol Bennett, the Chief Executive of the Alliance for Gambling Reform, thank you very much for your time. All the best.
Thank you, Bill.